It was a cold October night in 2016 in Freiburg, a university town in southern Germany known for its welcoming atmosphere. Maria Ladenburger, a 19-year-old medical student, was cycling home after a party with friends. It was around 2:30 a.m., and she was riding along a bike path by the Dreisam River, a route familiar to students. But Maria never made it home. She was brutally attacked, and her body was later found floating in the Dreisam River. This is considered one of the worst and most controversial crimes in all of Germany. Hey everyone, how are you doing? In today's video, I'm going to talk about a very controversial case that shocked Germany. So without further ado, let's get into the video. Maria Ladenburger was born on December 6, 1996 in Freiburg, a city of over 200,000 people in southern Germany. She was the daughter of Clemens and Friederike Ladenburger. Maria was the eldest of three sisters and, according to sources, grew up in a loving religious family that encouraged a lifelong pursuit of knowledge. Her parents were described as deeply Catholic, raising their daughters with Christian values and promoting volunteer work. Clemens Ladenburger, Maria's father, is a senior jurist at the European Commission, specializing in legal and constitutional matters. Her mother, Friederike Ladenburger, worked as a representative for European Episcopal conferences, a role connected to the Catholic Church. During her childhood, Maria moved with her family to Brussels, Belgium, due to her parents' professional responsibilities. Despite the move, the family regularly visited Freiburg for important celebrations or to see relatives. In Brussels, Maria attended a German international school, gaining access to a high-quality education. These schools are known for their rigorous curriculum, emphasizing languages, sciences, and mathematics, preparing students for elite universities. Many students there are children of diplomats and European Union officials. Maria was described as an excellent student with a strong curiosity about the world. According to sources, during her teenage years, Maria took part in various volunteer activities, an altruistic habit she likely inherited from her parents. Among these activities was support for humanitarian causes, such as welcoming and assisting refugees, something many who followed her case later called a cruel twist of fate. In 2016, at 19 years old, Maria returned to Freiburg to study medicine at the University of Freiburg, one of Germany's most prestigious universities. Although she had spent much of her life in Brussels, Maria enjoyed Freiburg and its calmer environment. In addition to her studies, she volunteered at a refugee assistance center, helping young migrants integrate. She also participated in humanitarian projects, including initiatives in developing countries. A friend of Maria's said in an interview that she truly believed in a better world. Maria had the life many dream of and was in one of her happiest moments. But unfortunately, something terrible was about to happen to her. On the night of October 15, 2016, Maria was at a party on the university campus organized by the medical faculty. According to classmates who were also at the party, Maria seemed very happy. She was having a great time, talking with friends and smiling almost constantly. Around 2:30 a.m. on October 16th, Maria decided to leave. At the time, she was living in student housing in the Littenweiler district, about 3 miles from where the party was held. Maria said goodbye to her friends and then took her bicycle. She rode along the bike path by the Dreisam River, near SC Freiburg's old Schwarzwald Stadium, a path that was lit but isolated at night. Maria could have taken a regular street, but she preferred the riverside route because she enjoyed cycling and taking in the scenery. Despite the late hour, it was common in Freiburg for women, even young women, to cycle at night without much concern, as the city was considered very safe. However, after the terrible event I'm about to describe, that perception changed. Maria rode along the bike path toward her housing without worry until around 2:50 a.m., when a man hiding behind some bushes violently pushed her, causing her to fall off her bike. The attack was very fast, and Maria was likely extremely confused, unable to process what was happening. While she was still on the ground, the man grabbed her and dragged her behind some bushes, out of sight of anyone who might pass by. He then sexually assaulted Maria and threatened her, saying that if she screamed, he would take her life. According to authorities, the attack lasted about an hour, after which the man suffocated her with her own scarf. Maria lost consciousness, becoming even more vulnerable. He then carried her to the shallow waters of the Dreisam River and submerged her face completely to ensure she drowned. Around 8 a.m. that same day, a woman jogging along the riverbank discovered Maria's body. At first, the woman could hardly believe what she was seeing, but as she approached, she realized it was indeed a body. Terrified, she quickly called the authorities to report what had happened. By around 8:20 a.m., police arrived at the spot where Maria's body was found, about 0.9 miles from the university party she had left around 2:30 a.m. Sources say the authorities had no difficulty identifying the body as Maria's, as she was carrying her identification. Her bicycle was also found nearby, close to where the crime occurred. There were visible signs of violence on Maria's body, but only an autopsy could provide crucial details for the investigation. During the autopsy, it was confirmed that Maria had been sexually assaulted, and the cause of death was drowning, as water was found in her lungs. The autopsy also showed that Maria had been suffocated before drowning. There were visible marks on her neck, indicating that significant force had been used to deprive her of oxygen and render her unconscious. The Freiburg police acted quickly, forming a task force called Soko Dreisam, with 68 investigators fully dedicated to solving the case. More than 1,400 people were interviewed, and 1,600 leads were analyzed. Due to the lack of eyewitnesses, investigators knew it would be a difficult case, relying almost entirely on forensic evidence. A large area of the bike path along the Dreisam River, as well as part of the river itself, was cordoned off by authorities, who conducted a thorough search for any clue that could lead to the perpetrator. The first major lead was some strands of hair, about 7.3 inches long. The hairs were black with bleached tips and were tangled in a bush by the bike path. Fortunately for the investigators, the hairs had roots, making it possible to extract DNA. Another major clue was a scarf found in the Dreisam River, later identified as Maria's, which had been used to suffocate her. Both the scarf and the hairs were sent for analysis. During these tests, male DNA was detected on the scarf, and it matched the DNA from the hairs, which authorities by then knew belonged to a man. In short, the male DNA found on the scarf belonged to the same man whose hair strands had been found in the bushes near the bike path. However, despite this major breakthrough, the DNA did not match any profile in the police database. This meant the DNA's owner had never been arrested for a serious crime and therefore was not registered in the police system. Determined to catch the perpetrator, authorities went to the medical faculty where Maria studied and collected DNA samples from all male staff and students. Investigators were hopeful that if the criminal was among these men, he would be quickly identified. However, none of the hundreds of DNA samples from the university matched the DNA found at the crime scene. This was very frustrating for the German authorities, who had been confident they would solve the case and catch the perpetrator quickly. Days passed with no progress in the investigation. As a result, authorities offered a reward of 6,000 euros for any information leading to the perpetrator. A few days later, this amount increased to 35,000 euros, thanks to donations from people following the case who wanted the criminal brought to justice. While the German authorities worked to solve the case and catch the perpetrator, the Ladenburger family faced their grief. They were completely devastated by what happened and remained private. They chose to maintain privacy during the initial period of mourning, avoiding public appearances or detailed statements about their personal pain. In an obituary published a week after the crime, on October 23, 2016, the family expressed their feelings with the words, "Maria was a ray of sunshine in our family for 19 years, and she always will be. We thank God for the gift she was to us." Several residents organized spontaneous vigils along the Dreisam River, leaving flowers, candles, and messages in Maria's memory. The University of Freiburg, where Maria studied medicine, issued a condolence statement, highlighting how dedicated a student she was. The mourning extended to Belgium, where the school Maria had attended since childhood in Brussels also issued a statement of condolences. The crime had a huge impact across Germany. Freiburg was considered very safe with a low crime rate. The brutality of the attack shocked residents and instilled fear. Many women changed their habits, avoiding going out alone at night and carrying pepper spray in their bags when they did. Sales of pepper spray sold out in local stores, and demand for self-defense courses skyrocketed. Students at the University of Freiburg, particularly near the campus where the crime occurred, began organizing groups to walk together at night, and safety apps that alert contacts in emergencies grew in popularity. To make matters worse, just 3 weeks after Maria's murder, a very similar crime occurred in Endingen, a town neighboring Freiburg. This time, the victim was a 27-year-old woman named Carolyn Gruber. She was jogging alone in a vineyard park when she was attacked by a man, just like Maria. Authorities said Carolyn had no chance. She was struck at least 6 times in the head, and like Maria, was also sexually assaulted. Carolyn's body was found in a landfill near the vineyard park. Endingen has a small population of just over 9,000 people. When local residents learned of this terrible crime, fear spread through the town like wildfire. It didn't take long for those following Maria's case to make a connection to Carolyn's case. The similarity between the crimes led many to believe they were committed by the same person, even though authorities did not officially confirm this. This suggested that a serial offender might be operating in the region, and with the police struggling to solve both crimes, fear only grew. As a result, not only residents of Freiburg and Endingen were anxious, but people throughout the surrounding areas as well. Residents of the districts of Waldshut, Emmendingen, Schwarzwaldbar-Kreis, and Lörrach, which border the district where Freiburg and Endingen are located, became fearful and changed their routines. In Freiburg, where the crime against Maria Ladenburger occurred, authorities had to deploy additional officers due to public pressure for increased security. The fact that the perpetrator had no criminal record in Germany made the police's work even more difficult. German authorities only made a significant breakthrough at the end of November after analyzing thousands of hours of security camera footage. They knew the suspect had long black hair with bleached tips, likely styled in an undercut, a haircut where the sides and back are shaved or cut very short, leaving the top long for contrast. While reviewing the footage, investigators examined recordings from a tram passing through Littenweiler near the crime scene. In a video captured at 1:57 a.m. on October 16th, 40 minutes before Maria left the party, a man matching the suspect's description was identified. He boarded the tram near the university and got off at the final stop, less than 1 mile from where Maria's body was later found. In the footage, he was seen harassing 2 young women, which caught the attention of a police officer reviewing the images. The man's suspicious behavior, combined with the hair description, led to a composite sketch being created and distributed to all police units in Freiburg. On December 3, 2016, almost 7 weeks after the crime, the persistence of the Soko Dreisam task force paid off. A patrol in Littenweiler recognized a young man who matched the composite sketch. The young man was identified as Hussein Kavari, an Afghan immigrant who claimed to be 17 years old. He was arrested without resistance, ending an intense manhunt. When the police announced that they had finally captured the suspected perpetrator of Maria Ladenburger's murder, residents of Freiburg and the surrounding area felt relieved. After Hussein Kavari's arrest, authorities collected his DNA for analysis. The results confirmed that his DNA matched the hair strands and the scarf found at the crime scene. These pieces of evidence alone placed Hussein Kavari at the scene of the crime. However, the prosecution wanted an airtight case, leaving no room for the defense to find loopholes. The key was Hussein's iPhone, which he refused to unlock. As a result, Freiburg police made a bold and costly decision. They hired a specialized company in Munich to unlock the device, a process that took months and required a significant financial investment. The iPhone data revealed crucial evidence. Investigators combined 2 data sets, geolocation and activity data from Apple's Health app. The geolocation data placed Hussein's phone, and therefore Hussein himself, at the exact location of the crime between 2:46 and 4:02 a.m. But the Health app data revealed even more telling activity. The app, which functions as a digital pedometer, recorded few steps during that period but detected 2 activities classified as climbing stairs. By analyzing the topography of the area, a steep riverbank, investigators theorized that these spikes corresponded to moments of intense physical effort, when Hussein dragged Maria Ladenburger down and then back up the slope. To test this theory, the police came up with a clever plan. An investigator with a physique similar to Hussein's was sent to the site with an iPhone and replicated the movements made by the criminal that night. The Health app recorded the actions identically, confirming the theory. This was the first time Freiburg police correlated health and geolocation data to help solve a crime. The information obtained from Hussein's iPhone proved extremely useful to the prosecution. When authorities revealed the identity of the person responsible for the crime to the German public, the case sparked a major controversy. Many people opposed to Germany's refugee policies blamed the incident on the country's acceptance of newcomers. This created a division among some Germans. While some called for stricter immigration controls, others, including refugee support organizations where Maria had volunteered, defended the continuation of humanitarian policies. In 2016, Freiburg was a symbol of welcome, with much of the population embracing diversity and supporting Chancellor Angela Merkel's open-door policy. Between 2015 and 2016, Germany received more than 1.2 million asylum-seeking refugees, many fleeing conflicts in the Middle East and Africa. Freiburg, due to its location near the Balkan route, welcomed thousands of refugees, including unaccompanied minors, with support from NGOs and local families. The city prided itself on its tolerance and hospitality. The violent crime rate in Freiburg was low, with 0.7 homicides per 100,000 inhabitants in 2015. Therefore, a crime as severe as Maria's deeply shook the city. Hussein Kavari, the perpetrator, arrived in Germany in November 2015. He was undocumented and claimed to be an Afghan refugee born in 1999, classifying him as an unaccompanied minor. This status granted him special protection. He was granted asylum, placed with a foster family, attended a local school, learned German, and received government benefits. The family that took Hussein in Germany is of Afghan origin. His foster father is a doctor and his foster mother an interpreter. According to sources, they are good people who have never had legal issues. Although Hussein claimed to be Afghan and 17 years old, German authorities eventually discovered that this was false. Hussein Kavari was neither 17 nor Afghan. Lying about age was a common practice among asylum seekers, as minors received special protection and lighter sentences for crimes. Hussein's true identity came to light thanks to a Greek lawyer, Maria Ladenburger, who recognized him in photos published by the European press. Maria Eleni had defended him in 2013 in Greece, where he was convicted of attacking a 20-year-old student in Corfu. On that occasion, Hussein robbed the young woman and then threw her off an 8-meter cliff. The victim miraculously survived the fall of more than 30 feet, but spent 17 days in the hospital and underwent 3 surgeries. When arrested, Hussein Kavari told Greek authorities that he was from Iran and born in 1996, meaning he was supposedly 17 in 2013. He was sentenced to 10 years in prison for robbery and attempted murder. However, due to prison overcrowding, he was released on parole in October 2015 after serving only 18 months of his sentence. Hussein then took advantage of the situation. He violated his parole and fled from Greece to Germany, where his identity went unverified due to the lack of integration between European data systems. Without documents, he claimed to be Afghan and 17 years old, receiving full government assistance. In Freiburg, Hussein Kavari lived with total freedom and without proper supervision. He would often disappear for days, going to places where he consumed alcohol and drugs, including vodka and hashish. His foster family, although caring, did not monitor his movements, an issue that would be raised during the trial. According to authorities, on the day of the crime, Hussein spent several hours excessively consuming alcohol and drugs. He then stole a bicycle and rode to the Dreisam River, where he hid behind bushes waiting for a victim. Hussein did not know Maria Ladenburger. It was a crime of opportunity, and unfortunately, Maria crossed his path unaware of the terrible fate awaiting her. Most likely, if it hadn't been Maria, it would have been another woman sooner or later. Hussein Kavari's trial began in September 2017 at the Freiburg Regional Court under heavy security and media coverage. He faced multiple charges, including intentional homicide. On the first day of his trial, Hussein tried to construct a narrative that was later disproven by the authorities. He claimed he had fled Afghanistan because his father died fighting a group that took over the country, leaving him an orphan. He said men from the same group did horrible things to him, things he didn't want to talk about. Hussein tried to use this story to gain sympathy in court, but it didn't work. The prosecution presented overwhelming evidence: DNA, security camera footage showing him harassing other women before the crime, and iPhone data. Prosecutors argued that all the evidence indicated Hussein Kavari had premeditated the crime, which would increase his sentence. Additionally, his fingerprints, collected after his arrest in Freiburg, confirmed he was the same man convicted in Greece in 2013. On the second day of the trial, Hussein confessed to the crime but tried to minimize his responsibility. claiming he was under the influence of alcohol and drugs. The court rejected this defense, concluding he acted fully consciously. Hussein Kavari's true age was a central issue, as it determined whether he would be tried as a minor or an adult. He claimed to be 17 in 2015, the year he entered Germany. However, he had already been arrested in Greece in 2013, where he had also claimed to be 17. Authorities believed Hussein could be over 25 years old. A forensic dental examination based on a tooth he had extracted months earlier and found in his home indicated he was between 22 and 29 years old. The definitive proof came from his father, contacted in Iran, who confirmed that Hussein was born on January 29, 1984, making him 32 at the time of the crime. Thus, Hussein Kavari could be tried and sentenced as an adult. In addition to confessing, Hussein gave details of how he committed the crime. He said that hours before the attack, he consumed 2 bottles of vodka, beer, wine, and illegal substances with friends, which left him out of control. He stated that he fell off a stolen bicycle while drunk, saw Maria, pushed her off the bike, covered her mouth, suffocated her with the scarf until she lost consciousness, sexually assaulted her, and then took her to the river, where she drowned. According to him, he did not intend to kill her. During the trial, a psychiatrist testified that Hussein showed a persistent readiness for violence and a hostile attitude toward women, with no genuine signs of remorse. The expert warned of a high risk of reoffending. It was also noted during the trial that Hussein's foster parents had not exercised proper supervision. As previously mentioned, Hussein would disappear for days without giving any account to his foster parents. He shared an independent apartment with another young Afghan man and was given no rules to follow. This total freedom was seen as highly negative, especially since, before his arrest, people who knew him believed he was 17. These failures were considered serious deficiencies. This put the social welfare agency responsible under intense pressure, both from authorities and the public. The presiding judge, Ketrin Schenk, highlighted Hussein's extreme lack of empathy and his readiness for violence. The trial was complex and exhausting, lasting over 20 days. On March 22, 2018, the Freiburg Regional Court found Hussein Kavari guilty on all charges. He was sentenced to the maximum penalty under German law, life imprisonment with particular severity of guilt, making release after 15 years extremely unlikely. Additionally, preventive detention was ordered after completion of the sentence. Upon receiving his sentence, Hussein showed no reaction, as if he didn't care about the consequences. Hussein Kavari's assigned public defender said he would appeal the sentence but withdrew a few days later. Maria Ladenburger's family did not attend the trial. They were represented by a retired lawyer named Kramer. Hussein Kavari's conviction brought relief to some people, while others said he deserved a harsher punishment. The Ladenburger family created a foundation called Maria Ladenburger Stiftung, aimed at supporting medical students and humanitarian projects, including scholarships for refugees. In a final public statement, Friederike Ladenburger said, "I want people to remember Maria for her life, not her death." Now let's discuss the outcome of the case of Carolyn Gruber, the 27-year-old woman who was jogging in a vineyard park in Endingen and suffered the same fate as Maria. Due to the similarity between the two crimes, many assumed they were committed by the same person. However, as you now know, that was not the case. The perpetrator of the crime against Carolyn was a Romanian truck driver named Catalin Ciolpan, who was around 40 years old at the time. He was arrested in June 2017, 8 months after committing the crime. According to sources, he was married and a father of 3 children. After arresting Catalin, German authorities discovered he was responsible for another crime. This crime took place in Kufstein, Austria, in January 2014. The victim was a 20-year-old French exchange student named Lucille Klobut. Catalin did to Lucille the same as he did to Carolyn. He attacked her, sexually assaulted her, and then killed her. At the time, Austrian authorities found male DNA at the scene. The DNA belonged to Catalin, but since he was not registered in the police database, no match was made. When he was arrested for the crime against Carolyn, his DNA was collected and entered into the German police database and later the European database. This generated a match with the DNA found in Austria, allowing him to be held responsible for the crime. Additionally, there is suspicion that Catalin Ciolpan is a serial offender whose crimes began many years earlier. Romanian authorities, in his country of birth, stated that he is suspected of at least 4 similar crimes there. These crimes occurred between 2000 and 2004 and bear strong similarities to the crimes Catalin committed in Austria and later in Germany. According to Romanian authorities, Catalin Ciolpan had also been arrested in Romania in 2005 after sexually assaulting a 23-year-old woman named Ionela. However, for unknown reasons, he was released and not prosecuted. Catalin Ciolpan's trial for the crime against Carolyn Gruber began in November 2017 at the Freiburg Regional Court, the same court where Hussein Kavari was tried. The trial lasted over 30 days, and in the end, Catalin was sentenced to life imprisonment followed by preventive detention, making parole impossible. There is no available information on whether he was formally charged or tried for his other crimes, but if desired, a more detailed report covering all known crimes can be compiled. On his first day in prison, Catalin was beaten by about 10 inmates who, upon learning of his crimes, became furious. He suffered multiple injuries, from facial lacerations to lost teeth. Because of this, he had to be transferred to another prison for his own safety. According to sources, Catalin Ciolpan and Hussein Kavari served their sentences in the same prison, but there is no public information on whether they interact. The Maria Ladenburger case had a major impact across Germany, as previously mentioned, prompting authorities to adopt preventive measures to stop criminals posing as refugees from entering the country and causing harm. Reforms were implemented, including mandatory age verification and increased cooperation with Interpol. Authorities hope that with these reforms, crimes like Maria Ladenburger's can be prevented in the future. And the case of Maria Ladenburger comes to an end, a story that shook Germany to its core. Maria believed in a better world, and perhaps the greatest way to honor her is to keep believing in that vision, but with our eyes open to reality. If you made it this far, tell me in the comments, did you already know about this case and which part struck you the most? Subscribe for more unheard of cases and give a thumbs up. It really helps my work. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.